Hello and welcome back to my garden. My name is Jen, and in today's video we're going to be planting up some Kolas, and I'm going to show you how I water my gardens. And it's not what you would think. Before I get into how I water my gardens, I'm going to get these Kolas planted first, and I'm going to plant them right around this little fountain that we have. This fountain was an inexpensive find. I purchased it from Amazon last year, and it was well under $150, so it was a great buy. We love this fountain, and I think the pop of red around it with the Kolas really makes it stand out. Now that the Kolas are safely in the ground, I'm going to fill up the water fountain, and this is something that I do every single day. I refill it just to make sure that the water is full and to the top so the motor doesn't burn out. Now on to the daily watering task. We do not have an irrigation system, so I go out and I water every single container that I have by hand. Now, a couple things with that. I like to make sure that all my containers are very, very close to my hose. That way I don't have to drag the hose all over creation to make sure that I'm watering all my containers. I keep everything in a central location, so it's much easier to water and maintain. And I move my containers every single year. My containers never end up in the same place. So another reason that I don't want to have an irrigation system is because I would have to move that irrigation system around to accommodate where I'm putting these planters. So having a hose right by my containers works out perfectly for me. Watering does not need to be a difficult or expensive process. I am lucky that I live in an area that does have pretty consistent rain, but this is not a usual year, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. And also in the end of this video, I'm going to share what I currently use to water my gardens, and it is not an irrigation system. I get comments all the time when people stop by to see my gardens and they say, that must take so much time and so much water, and they are shocked when I explain how I keep my gardens watered. Back in 2012, I started gardening and I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that water was crucial in getting newly planted perennial shrubs and trees to grow. So what I did was I hand watered each thing I planted every single day unless it rained. And this worked out really well because I wasn't creating huge new flower beds like I am now, so it was very manageable, and I loved taking the time to look at my gardens each day and see how things were growing. Moving on to the next year, I did not water anything I planted the year before. I only watered everything that was newly planted that year. Not a conscious decision at all. I honestly thought I didn't have to water anything that was put in the ground last year. I thought it was completely established and good to go. I'm sure this seems odd to a lot of people, but if you think about it, when you're purchasing plants locally for anything that is going to come back the next year, trees, shrubs, perennials, you're going to be basically buying things that are rated for your zone. So I just had to make sure that it was good for zone 6B and that it was full sun because I had no shade on my property. Other than that, I figured I was good to go. Water it the first year, then move on to something else the next year. And for my garden in my zone, I was right. This process really does work. Now, over the years, I have definitely learned to cut back on the daily watering of the perennials, trees, and shrubs to a more deep, infrequent watering. But overall, my philosophy stays the same. I only water the first year. You'll see here that I am watering some annuals, and that is only because I have turned the faucet off and I am letting all the water drain out of the garden hose. That makes sure that I am not wasting a single drop of water. Our faucet is right over there, and right now that is the only faucet that we're using. We do have one in the front yard, but it is not working very well. The water pressure is really low, so we are running everything off of this single faucet. The hose goes underneath the deck and then comes out right over here. So that's the gray hose. And then we have this multi-faucet system through Big Lots, and I think it was $10. So you can just turn the valves on and off as needed. And you can see I only have 3 hooked up. So the gray one is the main hose, and that's hooked up here. Then we have the green hose, and that goes right there on the deck to water plants on the deck. Then I have this really big hose right here, this black hose, and this is what I use for most of my watering, and it's an expandable hose. I don't have it all wrapped up right now, but there's the nozzle to that. And then this black hose snakes underneath the deck. And then we have to go all the way down here to the retractable hose, and this is a giraffe hose reel. And stay tuned, because in a future video, I'm going to talk all about how to get rid of Japanese beetles. You can see I have a little bit of a problem here on my zinnias, so if you want to see how I handle Japanese beetles and how I get rid of them, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to have a video coming up very, very shortly on that subject. Okay, back to the hose situation. All right. So that big gray hose goes all underneath the deck, snakes out here, comes along the fence, and is hooked up to this retractable hose reel. This is a giraffe hose reel that I got off of Amazon last year, and we attached it to a really big post that we painted black. Do have it a little high. Hindsight, I would have put it down a little lower, but it kind of does get hidden with all the greenery around it, especially from up above. But if you haven't seen a retractable hose reel, you pull it like this, and it does lock, and it has a nice little wand on the end of it that I can water everything. And then when I'm all done with the hose reel, you just pull a little bit to unlock it, and it automatically retracts right back up into the container. Now, in the winter time, we do keep this up, but we go ahead and we unhook the hose down here, and we take the air compressor and blow the line out, so there's absolutely no water in the hose at all over the winter. And it's held up fairly well. This is a 100-foot hose, and I really wish I had a couple more of these. Now, let's talk about the front yard a little bit and how I water that. I don't even know if my rose is still in here. Yes, it is. Hidden. I'm gonna have to cut back a lot of this ageratum. I'm gonna try to transplant it, because this is one of my favorite flowers. And my moonflower is growing. That is so exciting. First time ever I've had success with a moonflower. I've seeded them before and nothing's happened. So it looks like this is gonna be my lucky year. Well, I keep getting sidetracked. Okay. Let's talk about the front yard, how I water that, which is not ideal, but for now, it is what it is. We take this hose and we take it all the way out front, and then I fill up a watering can if the hose doesn't reach, to water the flowers in the front flower bed. Like I said, it's not ideal, but until I can figure out a system to maybe get a splitter there, and somehow trench a hose. I would love to have another hose reel right there in the corner where that basket is. I think that would be really, really helpful. I can say I've really lucked out this year because of all the rain. I have hardly had to pull the hose from the back to the front to water this flower bed. We're getting pretty consistent rain, like I said earlier in the video, so there's really no need for me to supplement additional water to this section, even though I do have a whole bunch of new plants planted in this bed. So win-win. Yes, we're getting a lot of rain, but at least I don't have to carry a hose and a water bucket so far this summer. Now we are only in the beginning of July, so we'll see how the rest of July and August and September and October goes. But for now, we're doing pretty good as far as watering goes with the front flower bed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little something about how I water my gardens, which is a very unusual way, I know, but it works for me. So I'm just going to keep on doing it. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comments, and I will answer them as soon as I can.